preseason every year gives us our first taste of NBA action, representing a bit of a warm-up period for every team to get back into the swing of things before the real games begin. For die-hard basketball fans, we're all excited to see basketball any way we can get it, but it's important to remember that while things are happening in the preseason, they can definitely be a sign of things to come. It is important to take them with a grain of salt. With that being said, in today's video, we will be going through the 5 biggest winners and losers of the period, being the ones who made the most notable noise, either positively or negatively, to the point where that momentum could carry over into the season. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. We'll start things off with our first winner of the preseason being Ben Simmons of the Brooklyn Nets. Simmons has been through a lot over the last 2 years, and while some of it has been due to misfortune, a lot of it has been self-inflicted. He's been criticized for his lack of work ethic, his actions off the court have created a ton of distractions, he was benched last year, and he's also dealt with nagging back issues in that span. This is, without a shred of a doubt, an incredibly important prove-it year for Simmons, who at one point was an all-star, but has not performed at that level in quite a while. The preseason is the perfect time for someone like Simmons to get some of his confidence back, and that has been exactly what he has done. In the Nets' opening preseason game, Simmons did a good job pushing the pace and attacking the rim, finishing well, and he also dished out 3 assists in his limited minutes against the Lakers. Then in his next 3 preseason games, his distribution and playmaking skills were back on full display, putting up 9 assists in back-to-back games, and then 7 assists in his preseason finale. In these outings, he's also been hounding opposing teams' ball handlers and has shown that the guy who was once named to the all-defense team a few years ago is still in there, and those are the parts of his game that he needs to be able to impact at a high level. He still refuses to shoot the ball from the outside, so that's something that we all just have to live with, but on a Nets team looking to build their identity on the defensive end, while also being in desperate need of playmaking, he seems ready to bounce back for them, especially in those areas. Next, we'll go to our first loser of the preseason, being James Harden of the Philadelphia 76ers. Harden isn't necessarily a loser because of anything he's done on the court, because, well, he hasn't been on the court at all. He lands on today's list because of exactly that and everything that his situation in Philadelphia has become. He showed up for training camp and things seemed to be calming down as he willfully participated and integrated himself back into the team, but then when the preseason games began, he was nowhere to be found. He's been away from the team for about the last week, and there's no telling when he's going to be back, if he'll even be back at all, which is a clear as day message saying that he is done and wants to be traded. The issue, though, is that he's been trying to get himself traded since the beginning of the summer, and it hasn't happened yet because there aren't any teams actually stepping up trying to trade for him. The Clippers, who are the primary trade match he would like, have even made it clear that they don't feel like they need him, and in trade talks have drawn the line at including Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann is a 27-year-old role player, and they refuse to trade him for James Harden, which should tell you everything you need to know about the current trade market for him. The preseason was probably the time that a trade would have gone down if it were to go down, but now with the season right around the corner and no deal being even close to getting done, Harden makes it onto the losers list because he's not going to get his way anytime soon. He might have to wait all the way to the trade deadline and is now stuck in a bad situation that he created. Now back to another winner from the preseason, we have Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs. Coming into the league as the #1 pick in the draft, being touted as the greatest prospect since LeBron James is obviously going to come with a ton of pressure, and with expectations set that high, people are going to be ready to criticize any chance they get, because, well, that's just how sports fans are. Wembanyama had a decent showing in the Summer League with some impressive moments that also came with a few moments of defensive struggle, which had cast some doubt over him at the time, but in the preseason, he has looked absolutely ridiculous at times, and seemed poised to live up to the hype. In the team's 4 preseason games, he only played about 21 minutes per game, as is the case with most starters in preseason action, but in those limited minutes, he still averaged about 20 points per game. His length is absolutely going to be an issue, and we're already seeing it disrupt plays at an insane rate, where he can recover defensively and alter shots with ease with that 8-foot wingspan. He's blocked 11 shots in 4 games while playing those limited minutes. He can throw down dunks from outside the restricted area, and if his jumper can continue to make defenses respect him on the perimeter, then he's going to be a handful for defenses from day one. With the way he's producing right now, I feel like we may be in for a historic rookie season from him, especially when he starts playing over 30 minutes per game. Now back over to the other loser of the preseason, we have the duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Last season, the Mavericks traded for Kyrie Irving, hoping that it would take them to the next level and help them compete for a championship, but it wound up having the opposite effect, and they ended up slipping out of the playoff picture completely. After that disaster of an end to the season, they did a pretty good job addressing some of their holes this offseason by bolstering the defense that ranked near the bottom of the league last season, and the preseason was expected to be a time for this team led by that duo to develop some of their chemistry together that sometimes seemed lacking last season. Unfortunately though, both Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic dealt with some minor injuries during this period, so they really only got to play a handful of minutes together in their preseason opener, which doesn't really do much to develop chemistry at all. Offensively, the Mavericks were very good with both Luka and Kyrie on the court last year, so it's not a major concern, but you could tell they were still figuring out how to play alongside each other, sharing the ball, and defensively, they're going to be on the court together a lot, so they need to work together to improve on that end as well, and the preseason would have been a good time to work on some of those things and work the kinks out. And finally, the last winner of the preseason we'll be discussing today is Payton Pritchard of the Boston Celtics. Payton Pritchard briefly broke out during his rookie season as a reliable shooter from the perimeter in the Celtics rotation, but in each of the next 2 seasons after that, his role on the team was getting reduced more and more, to the point where he wasn't even playing at all in a lot of games last season. This summer, the Celtics had a very active offseason, bringing in some big names like Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, but they also lost quite a few key contributors from last year's team, which has opened up minutes in the rotation for someone like Pritchard to snatch up, but he was going to have to earn it. Well, after his performance in the preseason, it seems like that's exactly what he has done, because he balled out and now seems like he's going to be one of the first players off the bench for them. In the first 3 Celtics preseason games, he scored 26 points, 21 points, and then 17 points consecutively, and he made a total of 13 3-pointers in those 3 games. He's demonstrated an ability to create space off the dribble to get his shot off, a confident stroke from 3-point range, and an aggressiveness that they hadn't seen from him as much previously. Depth is one of the few concerns with this year's Celtics team, but if Pritchard is going to have a breakout season for them, then he could absolutely quell those worries. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who stood out the most to you during preseason. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.